Hi, everybody. Welcome to the latest episode of the Female Film Critic Panel. And this is our episode 55, if you can believe it. 55. And we are talking about the best of 2024 at the movies so far. It's gonna be interesting, at least for me. A lot of hot takes going on here. But
No,
yeah. And I'm Film Critic Rachel Wagner, and Molly's here.
Hello.
Yes. And Manda's here.
Hi, good to be back.
Yay. Thank you both so much. And I guess I should just say up front, everybody knows who's been following my site. I've been a grump this year. There's been almost no mainstream wide releases that I have liked. A few. I liked Arthur the King. I know you weren't a fan of it, but I did enjoy the Gentlemanly Warfare, whatever, that one. I thought it was fun. But I'm reaching. I was just a grump. There was a lot that I didn't like this year, so I'm still waiting for that mainstream movie to really, win me over and be the one that I'm like, yeah, and I'm hoping, my hope above all hopes is that Twisters is going to be that movie for me. I really think it looks like it. I think it feels like it. So that's what I'm real pulling for.
Honestly, I feel you on that one. I do.
I don't know. I mean, Manda, how do you feel as a whole, as far as a year of cinema? How do you think so far?
I'm not vibing. I think last year was just last year was like banger after banger. It was like hard, and we had like a top 10 by like this time last year.
It's true.
I'm barely scratching 5. And you know what I mean? Like I had to dig from like what came out last year that's being released this year that I can kind of put in my top 5. Like I don't have anything. It's really bad. And I'm looking at my year, and it's like there's mid movies that I've ranked that I'm like, I could give it a 4 out of 5, but like I'm not that in love with it type of thing for me. Thankfully I do have a 5. Or else it's not. It's a lot of honorable mentions, maybe.
Yeah, but I was like thinking, can I count Robot Dreams? That was
let me count it, please.
I was even wondering, you're just like, can we count La Chimera? Because even though, most people got it now, when critics, we got the Neon Box sets, but I was like, no, I can't count that. That was already in my 2023. Because I watched it, I put it in there. I was like, nope.
So you agree then, Molly? It's not been the best.
It hasn't been the best, at least for mainstream, but there has been some really good independent stuff that I feel that a lot of people have been having some qualms about. Like, I really love Driveway Dolls, even though it's in my honorable mentions. And I did really love Hundreds of Beavers, and that was fun.
That was fun. I enjoyed that.
Letterboxd considers that a 2022, and I'm like, no, it's not. It just came out this year, so...
let me put it, please. Let me put it.
No, that one definitely counts. I did enjoy it. I think it's a little long in the tooth for what it's trying to do, but it's fun. Yeah, it's wild. Have you seen Hundreds of Beavers?
Everyone's telling me to watch it, and I'm like, okay, I will.
Apple only has it for like $4 to rent, so
that's pretty good.
Yeah. I watched it for my birthday with my friends. I was like, I got it on rental. Let's do this.
Love it. That's a party right there. What do you mean?
Exactly.
Well, I'll have to send you the email of the rep, because I'm sure you can get I had no problem getting the link.
Oh, nice.
For Hundreds of Beer, I'm sure you can get it. They were super easy with it. So.
Yes, please.
It's not like $20 like most video on demand is right
Rentals.
Now. Like, what?
Here, look, all right. I'm gonna just buy it then. Thanks. So I can have it.
It's not like $10 to buy for some places, but it's just $4 to rent.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I'd rather rent.
And everybody's been all up in arms about the box office struggling, but like even I haven't enjoyed most of these mainstream big movies that need to make the big money. But even if I did, I feel like they're not the kind of movie that I'm going to want to see like over and over and over again. Like a lot of them have been really long, kind of, a bit of a downer. They're not been like the like like the Apes movie or the like is I guess Dune fans do see that many times, but I wouldn't want to see it like multiple times. I don't know, I just feel
it's
like
a lot.
I just feel like we're not. I mean, they kind of tried with the Fall Guy, but I know both Manda and I agree on that one that it was super disappointing and just like pointless. Like there was no like it was like watching a highlight reel of like nothing.
I feel like with the Fall Guy, the trailers script is abysmal. Like I just could not, I couldn't deal with it. And like they sold a different movie. And I think that's what really upset me about it. Because if you leaned in, like, I guess more on the romance, but also have a better script, because I don't understand how you would keep both of them apart for that long and actually sell their relationship, because we both said the same thing, Rachel. But if people are going to watch that and they're like, oh, it's not that great, then obviously the second week, no one's going to recommend going to watch The Fall Guy. And then that's how it plummets. Yeah. But it's just,
that's exactly what happened with Batman v Superman. I was working at the movie theater there. First week, super packed first weekend. And then the numbers just plummeted after that because bad word of mouth came out. And they're like, no, do not. They were like, this is not worth it. Please don't come.
No, because you're spending.
And the Fall Guy didn't even have that benefit of like first week bump, because nobody cares about that old series, from the 80s. So it's not like it had like a Batman v Superman franchise, bump to lean into.
And so the hope was, why did they change Emily Blunt's character? Because in the original show, she's also a stunt performer with him. So we could have had like a co-op stunt performance stuff right there.
They changed that? That would have
been... They made her a director instead.
It was right there. It was
the idea
of just been a stunt performer with him too.
Right there.
The idea of like her directing this like insane version of Rebel Moon, basically, like could have been fun. Like it could have been good, but it just wasn't. It was, the plot went nowhere. It was just like a bunch of empty action scenes that meant nothing. Like I just sat there after waiting hours for this movie at the South by Southwest Film Festival, and I watched the movie and I was just like, what? And I pulled out my phone and I was like to Shashawn, I was like, well, that was disappointing.
Oh, you had the exact similar reaction to me with Sundance when I went to see Paradise Hills, and I had to pay for that too. Since I was only an intern there at the time, and I was like, this is not worth $20. But thank goodness, Blinded by the Lights, someone had an extra free ticket. And they're like, please come with me. And I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, good.
Well, and he liked it, and he still likes it, which is totally cool. But my friend Louisa, who's been on this show before, she was also in the audience for the festival, and she was like, yeah, that sucked. I was like, see, you get it. Anyway, that was my most anticipated movie of the year. I was so excited for it. I thought it was great, and it just was not.
At least it wasn't Madam Web. I mean, there's
like,
some
honestly
small miracles right there.
Oh yeah, I mean, Madam Web, what a joke. But like, I really kind of feel like if that movie had Michael Bay, and it was exactly the same, directed by Michael Bay, I guarantee you the Rotten Tomatoes score 20 points lower. I guarantee you.
I agree with that. I do.
Yeah.
And honestly, the reason why it's that high is literally just because it's Ryan Gosling.
Yeah.
Because honest to God, he is the funniest person. And I didn't laugh once in this movie. And he was putting on a clinic and nothing landed. And I was so upset. I'm like, he's breaking his back. He's breaking his back, and like nothing happened. I was like, okay.
Yeah, I agree.
Are you a fan of Rachel's reviews? Do you look forward to Family Movie Night, Female Film Critics panels, or the Talking Disney podcast? If so, please consider supporting the podcast by becoming a Patreon. As a patron, you get to access monthly events such as the watch-alongs and Q&As, where you get to talk to stars and find out the behind the scenes of the movie making industry. And you can pick what I review for Family Movie Night, or even become a guest on the podcast Podcasts and YouTube channels are expensive, and I really, really could use your help. I would so appreciate it. You also get to be a member of the Facebook group where we talk about all the films that we're seeing, and we have so much fun. Go to patreon.com/Hallmarkies and select one of the Rachel's fan tiers. That's patreon.com/Hallmarkies.
Well, let's talk about what we have liked. Because I mean, we can go on and on. I thought the Ghostbusters movie was abysmal. I really didn't like it. It's just been rough. But
I have not liked any Ghostbusters movie. Well, I did kind of like the 2016, but I've not liked any other film of the Ghostbusters besides the first one and the 2016. None of those.
I agree. Yeah. Well, all right. Let's just dive in. Let's talk about it. So I did have one honorable mention. And the only reason it's an honorable mention is because it technically hasn't been released yet. It's called Ghostlight. It's being released in June, so it's just coming out, a couple weeks. But this I saw at Sundance, and I absolutely loved it. It was just like good for my theater loving heart, because it's about this man who is kind of this grisly construction worker, grumpy guy, and he gets sort of recruited off the street to be in the local production of Romeo and Juliet.
That's cute.
It's Dolly De Leon. She's so funny. She's playing Juliet in the movie, and she just like comes outside. They're doing, vocal exercises and stuff like that, training. And she comes outside and she's like, we need your help. And he ends up getting recruited to be in Romeo and Juliet. And I was like, this could be a whole new strategy for community theater.
You love it.
Which is hilarious. But that's the thing that's so good about it, because it does deal with some really heavy stuff. His family is grieving because of a loss that they've had. And obviously, like, the themes of Romeo and Juliet are going to bring that to the forefront. But it doesn't feel heavy, because it does have lots of moments of humor and warmth and community. And what's also really cool about the movie is that, so this man playing this construction worker guy, his wife and daughter in the movie, which they all have individual arcs, are all his real life wife and daughter.
Oh,
so it's like a real family. So it adds like an authenticity to everything that I think really works. And it's the Kupfer family, Keith, Catherine, and Tara. And they're great. And so, yeah, I just loved it. I thought it was so sweet and endearing and funny and emotional. And so definitely one of my favorites of the year. So keep an eye out for it. Comes out in, I guess, a wider release in June. So, yeah.
Do you know who picked it up? Who's distributing it?
I don't know. It's not one of the big
Mubi, Sunny Classics, Yanis Film.
Let me think.
I was like, please don't be HBO.
It's not like A24, IFC Films.
Oh, okay. That's pretty good, actually.
Yeah. So it's not
I like IFC.
Yeah. So it should get a decent little rollout, hopefully. And so keep an eye out for it. What about you, Manda? Did you have any honorables?
Yes, these are like 3.5 stars. I have a couple, and I like them for different reasons, but I'm just gonna go with one that really surprised me. So I had watched the original and the new one back to back, and I preferred the new one miles better than the original, and that is Roadhouse. Okay.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I've never seen either.
I know.
So.
I did it. It was like my first time for both. And I love Patrick Swayze. This is nothing against Patrick Swayze whatsoever, but obviously it came out in the 90s. It's like layered with cheesiness. And it's like melodramatic. And I understand why it was so iconic for that period. However, I think Jake Gyllenhaal in this role was absolutely hilarious. I thought it was a lot of fun. It's a lot of dry humor. And he's just so good in that. But I thought the action scenes were pretty cool. Like the combat's something that I always look for in these action movies, and the choreography is interesting. Different camera work and all of that, but it was like a lot of fun. The story needed work, but listen, compared to the original, the story was 10 times better in this new one, that I didn't even know what was happening. It took a left pivot. I was like, I don't know what's happening in this original movie. But I had so much fun with Roadhouse. So many people watched it, and Amazon Prime's giving it a sequel. So like that was a big surprise this year for me. Yeah, I think 80 million people watch the new Roadhouse. So that
will it get a Christmas song like the Patrick Swayze Christmas that happened because the Mystery Science Theater 3000 guys loved Roadhouse so much they gave him an entire song called a Patrick Swayze Christmas, and I was like, is Jake Gyllenhaal gonna get one now?
Oh my god,
I haven't caught up on that, but just the poster alone was a gift.
We love Jake. We love Jake.
Yes.
Thank you, Jake.
Very much. Molly, do you have any honorables?
I do have quite a few. I got Dune in there. Hundreds of Beavers, of course. La Chimera, since people are considering a 2024 release. I guess I could also say Perfect Days in there as well. Challengers and The People's Joker are my honorable mentions.
Nice.
I haven't seen People's Joker, but I heard it's good.
It is really good.
Yeah. Cool. Good. All right. Well, let's dive into let's dive into our top 5. My number 5 is, and these placements are somewhat fluid. I'm not married to them, but from now, my number 5 is Mars Express. This is an animated sci-fi crime noir film in the spirit of Ghost in the Shell or Blade Runner, or that kind of storytelling. It is an adult animated film, and I saw the subbed version at Animation is Film last fall, and so I was excited for it to come, and it got a decent rollout from GKids and for a couple weeks, and so I was glad for that. And the dubbed version, and it could just be like there's just a difference between reading versus hearing, maybe it just kind of went by, but they definitely like amped up the 4-letter words in the dub. It was kind of funny to me. It was like, how many ways can you say the F word in this thing? Like it was just kind of funny to me. But it was really good, incredible animation. I mean, I'm not the biggest sci-fi person in the world, so for me to endorse a sci-fi, says a lot. But it's about this woman named Aileen, who is looking into this like cyborg uprising, I guess. In particular, this woman that has been killed, and her partner is a former human, now cyborg, and so things just get kind of messy. And it's the animation's incredible, the music's really good. Some people might say it's derivative, but it had enough of its own sort of sense of humor and stamp and style that I enjoyed it, and I think it's definitely worth a watch.
Nice.
Yeah. So Manda, what about you? What's your number 5?
I have a controversial number 5, and I'm kind of scared to say it because I know the reception wasn't the greatest, but I was really impressed with Alex Garland's Civil War.
Okay. Yeah.
I know there's different perspectives, there's different ways to interpret it, but I do think it did shed a light on photojournalists. I think that journalists in general have a very important job to do. And I think that Kristen Dunst gave a phenomenal performance. I think Kaylee Spaney impressed me as well. The two of them, and just like 2 Sofia Coppola girlies. Like I was just so happy that they were sharing a screen. Like it made me really happy. But
yeah,
I think what impressed me the most was just like how raw it was, and the sound design just blew me away. When you notice it, you notice it. And I think that's something that you have to talk about for this film. Again, I know it's controversial. I thought Jesse Plemons was in it for 5 seconds, and I'm like, damn, gosh. I love you. Like that was amazing.
He was shocking.
He was incredible. He's just a menacing presence, and I didn't expect that from him either. He's continuously like rising up my ladder and like who to look out for as an actor. But I thought that this was miles better than Men, which was his last one.
No
even though
there.
I know, I'm like, I did like it, but the more I thought about it, I was like, no, it's like bottom barrel for Alex Garland. But I do think that for photojournalists, for war journalists, I thought that this was like a very interesting film, especially with the conversation surrounding the film. So I thought it was really well done, and that's my number 5 for sure. Yeah.
Men is really funny because I absolutely hated it, but but it was a very memorable experience because everybody, my fellow critics that were there, because it was just a critics only screening, of course, and they all knew that this was not a Rachel movie, and they were all just kind of looking at me like, oh,
they're like, oh no, it's gonna be bad.
My friends were surprised because I even brought up and I said I didn't really like it, and they were just like, wait, but you're a feminist and you really kind of like this. Yeah. I did not like this one at all. Yeah, I did not at all.
I was angry on behalf of Jessie Buckley. I was like, how dare you?
I was like, her character was so paper thin. All their characters were so paper thin. I was like, no, why do I care about any of this? It's just gross for the sake of being gross. Be like, all men are terrible. And you're just like, no,
it was so annoying.
That's not in to make her boyfriend a black man, making him the scary black man trope. And I was just like harkening back to Birth of a Nation, those sorts of things. And I was like, why did not his executive producer go to him, Alex, and say, Alex, this you're not American, but there's this really bad connotation in America about this. And the fact the boyfriend has nothing we know about except that he's abusive and he's a black man and he tortures this white woman. That's a bad look.
Yeah.
A really bad look.
It's true. There's so many. We could spend a whole episode just talking about men.
Yes.
but Civil War I was really torn on. I went back and forth. I agree with a lot of what you said. I really do. I mean, I think that Jesse Plemons scene was very memorable. I think that the tribute to journalists was well done. I was very tense throughout, and it was the kind of movie that I was like, should I recommend it? Because I wanted to talk to people about it, which says something. So I was like, but I guess I was a little bit frustrated because I felt very safe to me, like to make a movie about the supposed Civil War in an election year that has nothing to say about our current politics at all. Like it was like he got so scared by the reaction to men that then he went the complete opposite direction and decided to say absolutely nothing at all. I mean, there was almost nothing in this thing about Trump or about, which like on one hand, I'm like,
co-writers are a good thing, Alex. Co-writers, collaborators are great.
I was really torn about it. About whether I thought that was a good thing or a bad thing or was safe or that they that it kind of felt like this might as well have been the Hunger Games. It might as well have been like, it could have been like a complete dystopian, like have nothing to do with our current reality.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know. I still don't know how I feel. I've gone back and forth about this movie. And so maybe I should, I don't know. I'm just very conflicted on it.
I'm sorry I brought it up. Oh boy.
Probably a good thing I haven't seen it yet. It's on my watch list, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. You never know.
I want you as a critic to just like be 100% sure on especially in the world of Rotten Tomatoes, that you should just know how you feel about everything.
It's like, well, you don't.
It's just not the case. Like, and there are certain movies that I really struggle with. And that I sometimes go back and take a second look at and think about. I don't know. It's and on one hand, I'm like, well, is that struggle worth sort of recommending, or is it?
That's true.
Not? I don't know. Like people want our jobs to be easy, and it's just not the case.
I think a bunch of people expect critics just be resolute in their opinions, and that's just not the case. A lot of critics will change their minds. Like Roger Ebert first gave The Shining about like 2.5 stars, but then he put it in his great movies list. And there was even a Tumblr account, which is like when Roger Ebert was wrong. And Roger Ebert actually posted on his Twitter and said, you know about this guy? A lot of the times he's right. I was wrong. So
no, it's true. I mean, he did that with Blade Runner famously too. Yeah. He was right the first time about Blade Runner.
Well, he watched the theatrical cut with the really droning voiceover, so I think that really made a difference.
Yeah.
And the happy, tacked on happy ending where it's like, oh, Rachel did survive. And you're like, oh.
So you haven't seen Civil War, Manda?
I have not.
I mean, Molly. You haven't seen Civil War, Molly?
Not yet, no.
Okay. It's an interesting one. I'd be definitely really curious, especially knowing your politics. Like, I would be very curious to know what you think about it.
I would be probably interested in it, and I'd probably be like, you're not really following journalistic ethics here, political journalists. I have a journalism minor, so I'm just so whenever I see them just like not going ethically, I'm just like, you broke the cardinal rules.
Yeah. I mean, it's so separated from actual reality that I think it might not bother you as much as you think, but
it gets questionable, because even I was at the end, I was like, oh no, why would you? Why? So it'd be interesting. It'd be interesting.
Yeah.
Because I was questioning a lot. I'm like, but they're journalists.
Yeah.
But the thing that made me laugh the hardest though about Civil War. Well, there's not much to laugh in that movie, but the thing that made me laugh is the gelato sponsorship in my local megaplex. Civil War pistachio.
Because it's green. Oh my god. That made me die.
It reminds me of the Lorax Kia commercials, just like pure clean energy cards. Like, no, it's not. It's not.
Oh my god!
I was like, so I feel conflicted. Should I buy the Civil War? That was so funny. Yeah. They had Rocky Road for the Fall Guy, which I guess I can see a little bit more, but I thought that was really funny.
I like that. That's cute.
Yeah.
Rocky Road's cute.
Okay, where are we? Sorry, I lost our place. Is this your turn? Molly?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So Molly, what is your number 5?
So my number 5 is one I feel a lot of people didn't see. I actually had to watch it on Mubi because I missed it. They had it at random times at the one movie they were playing at Alamo Drafthouse. It is Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World.
Oh, I never heard of that.
And it's from Romania. It was technically Romania's Oscar. It was the movie they sent in for the Oscars for the 2024 Oscars, but it wasn't selected. And it's this black comedy satire about this young production assistant who works 17-hour days, and she has to go and drive and record for this video PSA that she's working on. And Uwe Ball is the director, and he literally plays himself in this movie. Is like, do you actually box all those critics? Like, yeah, I kicked their asses. And I was like, Uwe Ball's just having a lot of fun just playing off this. And it also, in between, she does TikTok videos where she pretends to be like this Andrew Tate manosphere guy, and she makes fun, and it's such a good parody. It's just like, oh, she nailed Andrew Tate and Sneeko and all these people on this TikTok, and it's really funny. Like, she's like, oh man, my balls are so blue from all this, and she's got this really fake beard on that she got this filter on. And it's great. And it also, I think it's one of the few films that really actually understands how awful it is to work on a film set. And being a film production assistant and having to work those 17-hour days, that was actually a big reason I was like, I can't survive in this film production world. And I got out of it because I was just, I can't do that. It's too much. And all these demands, you could be fired at instant notice, which they actually bring up. And it's so universal because it's also this great look at post-communist Romania, and it discusses the palace that the Romanian dictator Cesare had them create, this opulence, and having that be a recognition of the city they're in. And it's great. And Nina Haas is in, and she's also plays the head of this production company, and they do it on Zoom. There's lots of these Zoom calls. It's very, very disconnected from each other, and I really like that. And I thought it was hilarious. It's except for Hundreds of Beavers, I haven't laughed at any other film as hard as I did this one. And
it's black and white.
I highly recommend it. It's on Mubi for people to watch, and it's just fast. It is great. I really loved it. So 4 out of 5 stars right there. Yeah. I really also like the director's previous film Bad Luck Banging or Loony Porn, which took a look at how many people villainize sex in sexual situations, and having to go into the discussion about that, because when a teacher's sex tape is accidentally released and the people are trying to fire the teacher for something that was not her fault. So it's really good. I really liked it. And the star of that one also makes a cameo in this one. And it's all done in one long take for her last final scene. And you don't even notice it for a bit. And then you're like, wait, there's no cuts in here. This is going like 15 minutes.
Wow.
But it's really well done.
I'm glad to hear that because I've never heard of this and it's really long. So that's good to hear that it's worth the investment. It's almost 3 hours long.
It is kind of long, but it didn't really feel that long. Because it's just really funny and you're just kind of laughing at this woman just getting just like so tired and that she's still doing her TikTok videos. In fact, you see the poster that's actually her manosphere face with like a fake unibrow. Unibrow is just... It's top notch, I say.
Well, cool. Well, my number 4 is also one about media, so it's kind of a theme. I saw the TV Glow at number 4.
Nice.
I really loved this film. It's one that I think some people it's maybe a bit ambiguous for some people they'll feel, but for me, I really connected with it as somebody who like media kind of controls my whole life.
Yes.
I connected with this idea of so these two people that's really the only thing that they have in common is the fact that they both love this show when they're teenagers, and that's what bonds them. This show called The Pink Opaque, and they love it, and they also like not only do they love it, but they also kind of have this ritual surrounding it, which makes it meaningful. So because this is set in the past, and so he's not allowed to watch it, which I totally connected with because there were tons of shows we weren't allowed to watch, and that I lived through vicariously through my friends, or snuck the shows through my friends, and that's what he does. She leaves him a VCR video. She leaves him a VHS tape of that week's episode for him in their like AV club or whatever thing. And so that ritual of kind of knowing one person's thinking about him and giving him the show that he loves is meaningful to him. And then it becomes like this very actual, like there's some surrealist elements, fantastical elements that it becomes like a part of him in this meaningful way.
Wow.
And I just really connected with that. And I really thought the performances were excellent. And it's the kind of movie that you want everybody to see because you want people to talk about it with. And then what did you think? What did you think they were doing there? What about that scene? What about that? I feel like I could see it 50 more times and get something like sort of different each time about different scenes and different things going on. And I just really enjoyed it a lot more than I expected because the promo make it look kind of scary. Like it's, and that's why I was like, oh, no, it's Sundance because it was a midnight movie. I think at Sundance. I was like, okay. But it's really not. It's not scary at all. Like it's not a horror movie. And so, you know, as far as like there's no blood or, you know, there's nothing like that. And so if people are kind of nervous about it on that thing, you shouldn't be, and you should, I think, check it out. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, I've been meaning to watch it. I just can't find a theater near me that's actually playing it, or else I hate when that happens. It just bothers me because like everyone's talking about it, and then it's either out of theaters. I know I want to watch it. I'll find it.
A24 is so inconsistent about that. You know, it just seems like some movies like ever all at once.
I have some mutuals on Twitter just like, oh great, A24 picked it up, so I will not be able to see it until 2025 in Australia. I was like, oh,
I know.
It's so sad.
Yeah, it's just some they really, I mean, even Civil War, you know, like it's this huge release, A24, and then these other ones that you know just get the
Iron Claw. Yeah. The Iron Claw.
Oh yeah, the Iron Claw. So sad.
I cry every time.
But I liked it. And like I said, you have to kind of be open to there are ambiguities. It doesn't really answer all the questions you're gonna have. But I like that because it gives you something to sort of talk about and discuss.
Similar with the director's previous film, We're All Going to the World's Fair, which I actually watched as well at Sundance. Well, online, so I didn't have to wait till midnight, but it was still pretty late when I watched that work. And that was one that I was like, that was pretty good. And then I thought about it for a bit and it just snuck up on me and how groundbreaking it really was.
And it's also interesting because they have a time jump and Justice Smith's character, he then watches the show and he's like, wow, this is kind of silly. It's really not that great. And it had been so, and that was such a truthful, I think, moment too for the character, because it's just like, how many times does that happen? You know, with something that we love and then we watch it back as an adult. And you're like, oh, shoot.
Yeah. We'll discuss it more because it's also on my list too.
Yay!
Yeah,
love it.
All right, Manda, what's your number 4?
I have Dev Patel's Monkey Man in 4th spot. Yeah. I really appreciated everything he did in that film. It was a tad bit messy because he tried to incorporate so much, but the action scenes, next level. One of the best action films this year, one of the best action films in the past 5 years, in my honest opinion. I thought he did it, and I'm looking at it as it's so impressive for a directorial debut. And that's why I put it in my top 5, because you don't expect that from a first time out. And you could see little references from like The Raid, from Old Boy. And it was just so refreshing that he added his own spin on it as well. But I was just blown away by his direction, his acting. And I really love how grounded it felt, even though it was lore from his culture. I thought that was just such a beautiful touch, and the connection with his mother, and it's a natural revenge story. I think that he touched upon so many things, then he made it so personal. And I really enjoyed it. I was very surprised. He was ballsy with certain like choreography that I was shook watching that. So again, big thing, sound design here as well, that I always pay attention to, because it brings everything together, I think, really nicely. And the soundtrack was pure fire here. And I can just remember certain scenes from the film still to this day. And I've only watched it once, but I plan to watch it again because it was so good.
Yeah, it was great. I saw it at South by Southwest, and it was just visceral and exciting. And like story wise, it was a little convoluted, but there was enough sort of passion and heart in there that it didn't feel like sort of empty action like I felt with The Fall Guy, you know, that it was like everything kind of, you knew it had meaning, because at least they built up that these people were connected to him in some way, and there was some passion like going on. So yeah, I enjoyed it too. I quite enjoyed it, and it was neat to be there at South by Southwest and see him like his reaction and everything. It was fun.
That's so special. I love that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was cool. But yeah, did you get to see that one, Molly?
I did. Yes, I did enjoy it. I felt it was a bit messy. But I could definitely tell that Dev was really passionate about what he wanted to do. And I also found it kind of funny, the music song choices, because I was like, oh, Roxanne, that's a little on the nose right there. And then he had the heavy metal music for the final big battle scene. I'm like, oh, this is Key as a little kid at heart, and he's having fun, and that's really cute, actually.
Yeah.
So yeah.
He was really trying to do like an underdog story, like somebody who was on the outskirts and then coming in. And so that was fun.
It was interesting. They tried to hide a lot of the orange, because it's definitely a critique on Modi's government. And then they changed it to red so people wouldn't think that. And so it could maybe have a chance to get released in India, and then India banned it. So it's like they went to all that trouble, and then nope, it didn't even matter anyway. Felt bad for them.
That's too bad. I didn't realize that they banned it.
Huh. So unfortunate.
I didn't think that India, I mean, because they're not like communist. I didn't realize
but they are having some democratic backsliding under Modi's government.
I didn't know that.
Because his is a very right-wing nationalist political party.
I didn't know that. Interesting. Well, Molly, what is your number 4?
So my number 4 is Love Lies Bleeding. And
yes,
I just had so much fun with this, and I was just like, there's just this kinetic energy coming in through the theater when you're watching that film. you're just, it's this power fantasy, almost this lesbian feminine power fantasy, and you are just in it for the ride. And Kristen Stewart's so great. Katie O'Brien is phenomenal, top notch. She just did insanely good work there as the as a bodybuilder, and bringing up this world. And also she was one of the few people that could actually rock the 80s hair in that film. Most of the people couldn't. Kristen Stewart just barely slides in. And Ed Harris just had brought this gravitas of menace to him that was just so good. Like, you thinking to yourself, like, it's a bit insidious, like maybe he's not as bad, and then it's like, oh no, he's a bad dude. And it was just this great neo-noir crime drama that this is the stuff you're just like, yes, this is what I want to see. This is what the movies are for. And of course, I loved the sexual scenes. I was just like, yes, have that in the movie.
It's very sexy.
They only last like a few seconds at a time, so I don't understand why people were getting so upset about it. It's just like it's only a few seconds at a time, people. It's not porn. Don't call it that.
People were getting upset about it.
Some people were, yeah.
It's because they just don't understand
it's not like a family film.
There was that drunk guy who did jack off in the theater for that, but also because he was drunk. It's not because
he had a whole side table of things that I was like, of course you're intoxicated. I was like, how'd you smuggle this in? I was like, what?
It's just like, you could probably would have done that at like March of the Penguins or something like that as well. He was that drunk. I think he would have done it there. It wasn't just.
I missed that whole part of this conversation.
It was wild, and you're just like, oh my god, this guy is committing a sexual offense in public like this. Like, no, you go to the adult theaters, or you go do that at home. Please do not do this here.
Ridiculous.
So yeah.
I have to admit, I did not love it, but I do agree about the performances and the mood, and a lot of the filmmaking was good. It just the places it goes especially that last act, it just kind of lost me.
That was me.
It was a little too much for me. But I can see how it would work for other people, because they go there and you either kind of go with it or you don't.
Yeah, you either go with them or you don't.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So all right. Well, my number 3 is another little indie that I loved. And I had actually seen it last year at South by Southwest. And it's called Molly and Max in the Future.
I knew you were going to say that one.
And this is basically like a sci-fi take on When Harry Met Sally. And it's set in this like crazy, weird world. It kind of feels like sort of, it's like Tron meets Doctor Who is kind of how I think to describe it aesthetically. And these two meet throughout the course of like 20 years again and again. And they're both really charming. And I just like, so I actually got to talk to the director on Hallmarky's podcast, because I messaged him. It was my favorite movie of South by Southwest last year. I messaged him. His name is Michael Litwack. And I said, hey, I really loved your movie. When it does get released, I'd love to have you, since a rom-com, I'd love to have you on Hallmarky's podcast. And so throughout the course of the year, we would, email back and forth every once in a while. And so I was so excited when it got released. And it was like the height of irony that it got released the same weekend as Madam Web, which was so terrible and had such a budget. And it has the same actress. If you saw Madam Web, the actress who's playing like the evil guy's henchman, like entering stuff into the computer, that's Molly in this movie. So just like, oh my gosh. And what's amazing about this movie, even if it doesn't work for you, if you don't like, I could totally see, because it's kind of weird. I think that you got to admire like what they accomplished with practically nothing. Like, they basically worked on it during the pandemic. They made all these like miniatures and used green screen and just all this stuff that they like made by hand, and it created this whole world that with just like practically nothing. And I really admire that. They created these spaceships just out of like plastic and stuff. Nice. And so I would highly recommend following the Molly and Max TikTok. It's really fun to see how they created all these different shots. And so that not like there are certain set pieces that I think go on a little too long. There's certain jokes that don't work super well. But overall, I found it really charming and so creative and so inventive. And I think they do have pretty good chemistry, and I just really enjoyed it. So I'd recommend anybody check out Molly and Max in the future.
That was Sozia Mamet, was it?
Yes.
David Mamet's daughter? Yeah, that is her.
I don't know.
Yep. Yeah, that's her.
Oh, cool. I didn't know awesome. That. But she's really good. So if you were like, who is that weird henchman in Madam Web? You can see her much better movie. But it was just like
I
such
remember
a contrast.
her scene in the movie, and she's like, why am I here? Why did I agree to this?
That's what I said while watching Madam Web.
You're just like, is she held there under cat? Is she there against her will? That's what it felt like.
I know, just like, come on, your dad wrote Glengarry Glen Ross. I don't think you need to be here, Zozia.
But it's just amazing when somebody can make like literally out of their apartment versus Sony awesome. And their millions and millions of dollars. And
amazing.
That I don't know. In my opinion,
I feel like Hundreds of Beavers is definitely a great example of that too, because they used Adobe After Effects for
which
all
one?
Their effects. Hundreds of Beavers.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
That's awesome.
And it looks incredible because they're trying for that cartoony look, and it's just whoa.
That's awesome.
And if you all want to check out Molly Max in the future, and you're in the States, it is available on the Hoopla app for free. So
nice.
No reason not to give it a shot. Yeah. No reason. That's one of the
support your libraries. Apps. Have your library card. You can use it. Ooh.
Yeah.
That is true.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor of this episode of the podcast. New from Harpeth Road Press, we have Lindsay Gibson's new perfect beach read called Fly Away Summer. Chef Lana Kelly hopes she can acquire the inn her family lost, but when it goes up for sale, the inn is snapped up by Hunter Graham of Graham Property Development in New York City, who plans to transform it into an event venue. Lana isn't so thrilled about her new neighbor, but could this be a case of enemies turned to lovers? Pick up Fly Away Summer wherever you purchase books or use the affiliate link below. Find out more about Lindsay and all the terrific new books from Harpeth Road at harpethroad.com. That's harpethroad.com.
So, Mana, what is your number 3?
So, my number 3, I watched it at TIFF last year, and it is finally coming out next week. And there have been screenings for this movie already. And that movie stars movie star Glenn Powell. That is right. I'm calling him a movie star because he is.
Oh, yeah.
And after watching Hitman, you will love him as much as I do. And as
Yay.
I have it at number 2, so I'm totally with you.
This movie, I didn't know what the hell to expect, okay? I'm not a huge Richard Linklater fan. I'm gonna put that out there. I'm not a huge fan. I enjoyed Boyhood. I respected what he did with that, but I'm just not a massive Linklater fan. I go into this film. It is sexy. It is charming. There are twists and turns that you don't expect. There's multiple characters that I just loved so much. And Glenn Powell literally puts on an acting clinic in this movie, and he is so fun to watch. And Adria Arjona, who is with him in this film, they have incredible chemistry by just looking at each other. But the journey that you go on with these characters, you won't even know where you end up. I'm sorry. I was just floored with every turn in this movie, and I was like, what? Funniest thing this year, in my opinion, and like one of the best like action comedies in a while. Yeah. So high praise, but like it's so good.
Yeah, it is so dishy. This movie is it's really good.
Spicy.
Completely. Yeah. Yeah.
He's perfect.
And entertaining. Because I think people forget that Linklater has his more esoteric pieces, his Dazed and Confused and his things, but he also has his more mainstream stuff too that people forget. He's got
School of Rock,
Bad News Bears, things like that.
I really liked Bernie and
and
his one, the animated, the rotoscope one for Netflix
I
as well
love
that we had.
one
That was
so
good.
much.
That was so good.
But yeah, so he has incredible films, but they're not all sort of the more, like I said, esoteric, a little, you have to work, a little bit artsy kind of thing. But I would say if you consider the before movies rom-coms, which it's a gray area, we talk about all the time on Hallmarkies podcast. Definitely the third one is not, but I think you could make an argument for at least the second one is a rom-com. And I would say that the first two are rom-coms. If we count those two and Hitman, he's one of the greats ever. Like, I mean, that's how strong this movie is. It is really good. It is so entertaining. And, you know, at first I was kind of like, I'm going to buy Glenn Powell as this nerdy teacher guy. Absolutely. He totally
sells it. Everything he does.
Like,
and he's so good with Richard Linklater because they originally worked together for Everybody Wants Some. And I was like, oh, I forgot he was in that movie. I saw that movie in theaters.
I know. I liked that one. It's one of his more like slice of life kind of. It won't be for everyone. But this is very approachable. I have a hard time imagining anyone not liking this movie unless it's just too steamy for you, which I could understand. But I can understand that. But that's really the only critique I can imagine. I think guys will like this movie. I think girls will like this movie.
Hell yeah.
Yes.
Everyone. It's not family friendly, but
I keep checking everywhere to be like, okay, I see the trailer all the time at Alamo. Is it coming out here? When is it coming out here? When are you getting this Alamo?
Man.
And they have not brought it up yet.
This needed like a wider theatrical release.
It really does. Because the minute it was bought by Netflix, I was like, no, it's probably not going to get a wide release. It might not get a wide release.
Upset because I'm like, you have to watch this with a crowd. Like no one expects anything that happens in this film. Oh my God. And it just sucks that it's on Netflix. It really does.
I just don't get it because why leave money on the table? I just don't understand it.
I don't know what they did with it. I don't understand.
Like, it just seems like, why not make as much money off something as you can? Like, it's,
I do know
and
that
it'd be
Richard
one thing
Linklater,
if it was
the one before
proven
this
to
was produced by Netflix, so maybe that's why.
I mean,
He
it'd be
has
one
the
thing if it was
partnership.
proven that the stream being in theaters affected the streaming, but it hasn't really shown that. So
No.
I just don't understand why you would just leave millions and millions of dollars on the table, because you still got to market it the same. Even if it's just, you know,
Makes
like the
no
marketing's
sense.
basically the same.
I don't think Netflix understands that. I think they do want to destroy the movie theater industry, or at least bring it down, because they see it as a competition. And that's an issue with that.
Wanting exclusives for your streaming service. I can understand that. But I just feel like almost nobody is signing up for Netflix because of those exclusive movies.
Yeah, no.
Everybody I know who signed up for Netflix is there for Bridgerton. I mean, let's be real. But even so, even if you're not a Bridgerton fan.
Yes. And they just unsubscribe until the next season comes in.
I mean, that's what I gotta start doing. I'm just like,
it's just whether it's Bridgerton or The Crown or, you know, whatever is the big show. I just feel like that's what people are subscribed for. That's what people are signing up for, not for whatever, for the movies. I just don't know anybody who that's their hook, getting them on there. So it just seems like, why are you leaving so much money on the table for like scraps, for crumbs? It just seems like the number of people.
I mean, like even Killers of the Flower Moon was in movie theaters for like 2-3 months.
And I don't think that affected its placement on Apple at all.
No.
I mean, and I can't imagine, even though it's a really good movie and it's gotten good buzz and stuff, but I still don't think there's that many people who are signing up for Netflix because of Hitman.
Yeah.
And yet they're leaving millions of dollars on the table. It just, it doesn't make any sense.
It was a poor call. Yeah.
You know, whatever.
Yeah.
I mean, especially when they have Anyone But You, you know, as being such a big hit for them. Like, why?
I'm just hoping that it breaks records for Netflix.
Yeah.
And just shows the demand for Hitman. And I truly do believe that this is Glenn Powell.
Glass Onion would do that.
That's what I thought
because it did play for a little bit in theaters.
And I was like,
true,
what the
or the
hell
Pinocchio.
happened?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pinocchio.
Bizarre.
Poor Pinocchio. You know.
But Molly, what do you have at 3?
So my number 3, I think this one is going to be controversial for some, but my number 3 is Furiosa. a Mad Max saga.
Ooh,
yes.
Hell yeah. I still gotta watch it.
I was all in it the first 10 minutes, and you see you see that they're actually more like little zanier stuff. I was like, this is going to be like more like Beyond Thunderdome, and I am waiting and I am ready for this. And it partially is, there are some more slapsticky moments, but it doesn't have as much action as Fury Road, but it develops it way more with story, which is what I preferred. And Anya Taylor-Joy, she is top notch. She's great. The one who played Furiosa, the actress who played Furiosa as a child, she's also great, and she was in 3,000 Years of Longing. She actually plays the younger Tilda Swinton.
Oh,
so
really?
George
That's
Miller just rehired her again.
Cool.
She's like, you're so cute, you're so good, we're gonna have you with this.
Yeah.
And it was just how it was set up, and all the characters were a part of that. It was just great. Chris Hemsworth was so good. He's like this.
That's what I've been
He's
hearing.
like Max, if Max actually became a warlord instead of just a survivor. And it's so great to see those evocations that you have, that you're like, oh God, this is how Max could have ended up this way. And you just see how the setup and payoff is just done so well. It's just like, I don't want to spoil too much because it just came out and I want people to go to the movie theater. I'm just like, please, if you have like an AMC thing or Alamo like little thing where you can pay like $20 a month and you get tickets are like $2 with tax, that sort of thing, please do that. Or go on Tuesdays where they're mostly on sale and watch this movie. And because it is fantastic. It's a lot of fun, and it's so engaging. And the CGI looked a bit more fake, but I actually liked it that way because it looked a bit cartoony, and I actually I thought it really fit the tone of the movie, of the story much better than the narrative, and it actually enhances Fury Road, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. Good to hear.
Yeah, it's funny because I think your opinion would not be controversial at all. It's only because you know that I didn't like it. and that's too strong. It's not that I didn't like it. It's just that I was kind of underwhelmed by it. I didn't hate it, but I think that it's impressive as far as the spectacle. And I would say go see it and see the spectacle. It's definitely worth it. I guess for me, I am not steeped in the franchise. So, and I think somebody that is, I've only ever seen Fury Road. That's the only one that I've seen. So I can't speak to the whole sort of franchise as a whole, but for me, I felt like it felt bloated to me. It felt over long, especially how long it took to get to Anya Taylor-Joy, to get to the story really going for me. A lot of that was just it felt like there was a lot of picking up and moving around, and not I wasn't that drawn in by the story, especially child Furiosa.
I really liked her, so I guess there's the difference right there. I really liked the actress's subtle expressions. I thought she did a fantastic job with that, and I think that's why I didn't have as much of an issue waiting for Anya Taylor-Joy to come in, because I was just thinking to myself, gosh, this girl is so good already. So
it just felt like, to me, there were a lot of moments that were wink wink, this looks like, it feels like Fury Road. We're gonna do something that's like Fury Road. We're gonna have a Morton Joe in here. We're gonna have the pregnant wives. We're gonna have and we're gonna remind you of everything you liked about Fury Road. But to me, it wasn't. I said after, I felt like it was sort of like the Disney live action remakes, in the sense of I would. There were a lot of, you watch those live action remakes and you think, okay, they have a lot of reminders of the original film, but I would never in a million years choose to watch almost any of them over the originals. I would just always pick Fury Road.
I thought this story was better than Fury Road, mostly because I felt the Fury Road was kind of lacking in story in comparison to this one, while Furiosa, I felt, enhanced the narrative tropes and about the mythology and the themes of legends and mythologizing historical figures in this universe, and especially in a post-apocalyptic world where records are gone, so you have to Bridget with stories. And I feel Furiosa really connected that much more than Fury Road did, and really connects back more to the original series, original
Fury
trilogy.
Road did get a lot of flack for a lack of story, and I get that it's basically character going from point A to point B and a lot of stuff in between. And like I can't understand that, but it was like so kinetic, and it was so it just kept moving in a way that I felt like Furiosa didn't. That there were so many spots where I was just like, oh my gosh, come on. And then it would kind of remind me of Fury Road, and then I'd be like, why am I not just watching Fury Road?
It was like me with Ministry of Ungentlemanly Warfare when they quoted Casablanca and even basically recreated a scene. I was like, man, I just rather would be watching Casablanca right now.
Yeah. I mean, and most people seem to be really enjoying it, and so that's awesome. I didn't hate it. I don't know. It just felt a little bloated to me. I just wanted it to be...
actually have updated it now that Furiosa is probably my favorite of the Mad Max series altogether.
Yeah. I'm scared to watch this. Like, I'm not gonna lie. I'm just listening on my way.
Because I love the stories, and I feel it connects more to like George Miller, what he was trying to do with 3,000 Years of Longing, and I really love that film. I thought that was one of the best of 2022. So
yeah, I didn't care for that one either.
Yeah.
So. But I do love Babe Pig in the City. So
oh yes,
I love Babe Pig in the City. Okay,
it does remind me a bit of Babe Pig in the City a little bit that. with all the exteriors of the buildings, like Gastown and all those places. Like, oh, this reminds me of Babe Pig in the City. This is awesome.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
So, Manda, you'll have to return a report.
I hope I get to like check it out this weekend or this week. Can do it.
I'm gonna watch it again on Tuesday with my friends. I was just like, I gotta see it before I come here, because I'm probably gonna love this film and I need to talk about it if I can. I'm
tempted to go tomorrow. So we'll see what happens.
I am surprised it didn't do better. People are saying, oh, well, Fury Road didn't actually do that well.
It didn't. No. And I don't know if people even remember that movie. I'm going to be honest with you.
It's interesting because Fury Road came out decades after Beyond Thunderdome, and people were trying to say, oh, people don't remember it. It's been 9 years. Like, Fury Road came out decades after Beyond Thunderdome. So
yeah, I guess I just thought there had been enough goodwill that sometimes like an original will be a marginal hit, then the sequel will be a huge hit. Like if you think of, let's say, like Despicable Me, this is we were talking about it earlier. Like the first one was like a pretty good hit, and then the second one was like insane. And sometimes that's what's happened, just because like there's enough.
I think that happened with Temple of Doom. Temple of Doom, I think, is actually got way more money than Raiders of the Lost Ark, because people watch Raiders of the Lost Ark after first theatrical premiere.
Yeah,
and they're like, oh god, I need to see this.
Yeah, or like even like something like the original Twilight, it was like this lower budget film, and then the second one was the one that was like the big hit, So I don't know. It just, that's why I just thought, okay, this thing's gonna do real well. So I was surprised that it didn't do better. So I think everybody was surprised. But all right. So my number 2 we already talked about was Hitman. Super sexy, super fun. I really enjoyed it. I feel grateful that I was able to see it at Sundance in the theater, because it's just a bummer that not everyone's going to have that experience. But you should still watch it. It's really good. Yes.
Do it. Invite everybody over. Have a party. Make it feel like a theater.
Hitman party.
Hitman party.
Except make them think it's like Hitman the video game. It's like, no, we're actually watching the movie, suckers.
It's like, wait a minute. It's it. Switch it up. Oh my god, that's our hashtag. When you drop the pod. Hashtag Hitman party.
I will. Hitman party. Yes. Come over and watch it at my place.
Yes.
We charge $5 per
yes.
BYOBB. What's the extra B for? That's typo.
Well,
that's
Mona,
my
what's your number
Simpsons
2?
reference. Going to put the quarter in the jar now for Simpsons references.
My number 2 is a Luca Guadagnino film, and I adore that man. I loved everything that he's put out. He gets me so excited to go to the theater. I did not expect to love Challengers as much as I did. And at first, the non-linear storytelling can really throw people off, but trust me, it all packs a punch. And like at the very end of this, I'm not going to give too much away just because like the editing is really important here. The story's even more incredible just because of how they piece everything together. And you have the three of them in this beautiful relationship with Tashi, Art, and Patrick. I think that the three of them are just really interesting because they have this symmetry, because they have this this tie to tennis and this like beautiful game that they love, but it's also incredibly toxic, the relationship between the three of them. But I just love that there's a focus on the game more so, and how that a relationship affects the game and how the game affects the relationship. And I thought it was just incredible work from Luca. Visually, it's amazing. The score by Reznor and Ross, holy Lord. I was like fist pumping on my way back listening to that in the car. Like it's a banger. And I just, it's amazing. I love Challenger so much. Shout out to Zendaya for carrying her first film. I thought that was really special for her as a lead, and I just like the chemistry between the three of them as well.
Yeah, I was a little torn on this one. I did end up going positive on it. It was a little frustrating to me because I don't think it's the movie that they sold, and that's the fault of the marketing.
That's fair.
Because I was expecting, okay, this is going to be like Hitman. This thing's going to be hot. It's going to be really like just escapist on that level. And I didn't really feel that. I was like, this thing's pretty chaste for this. I mean, if you take out the locker room scene and some language, I don't even know if it would be rated R. Almost, you know, and so that was just, I was just wanting like, I guess a little bit more of that like erotic thriller that they promised. But like as a piece of like sports cinema, competitive back and forth, I think it's fun. I enjoyed it. And I do agree with all the strengths that you said as far as the performances, the filming, the music, all of that. And so in the end, I do think it's a satisfying thing. And I was invested in this competition between them. I just kind of, I guess I just wanted more from the romantic side of it, you know.
I think there's a level of like sensuality that Guadagnino kind of known for visually. And I think that because of what happens at the beginning of the film with the three of them, that kind of electric energy between the three of them is carried out in different scenes. And I think that's what he was playing into. But I totally get it. Like, I also thought that it would be a bit more raunchy as well, because that's what they
like
did.
A bigger splash almost.
Yes,
that was pretty raunchy.
That one was raunchy. Yeah, in comparison, exactly. So it's just,
like even that threesome scene, I mean, they stay fully clothed the entire time.
I think that's also I think that has something to do with Zendaya's contract, because in Euphoria, there's nothing that you see in Euphoria with Z, but everyone else is like completely out there. I think it's a contract thing with her, and I respect it as well for being
maybe a last thing that she had from her Disney career. That might have been it.
Most likely. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So I just one of those ones that I just felt like the marketing kind of hurt it a little bit. And I try not to be overly influenced by that, but I don't know. I just felt like I was sold a different movie than what I got, but I did end up enjoying it at the end. Yeah.
I did too. My brother was actually kind of surprised because I took him to go see it. He used to be a tennis coach.
Wow.
And it was kind of funny. My other friend who was with him, he even asked like, "Hey Drew, is it very accurate?" He said, "Yeah." And I said, "Yeah, you just play Mario Tennis. It's the exact same thing." It's like you just watch tennis. In fact, I was kind of surprised people on Twitter were like, "Wait, is this what tennis is? Do people just grunt and moan and just like scream like that?" Like, yeah, you never watched it?
Yeah.
That's a big reason why my mom watches it. She's her favorite player, Rafael Nadal, played today. He unfortunately lost. So I was like,
I never watched hardly any tennis.
All the time when Serena played. She was my favorite. She's still my favorite player, but she's not playing anymore.
Yeah.
Because she retired. But it was just like, but yeah, that's just how it's like. It is a lot of like grunting and like,
Did you see that Spider-Man to tennis
Yes.
That was so funny.
That was funny. I will say for the music as well, the score did remind me of their album Pretty Hate Machine from Nine Inch Nails, and that's why I enjoyed it. And because I think that's my favorite album of Nine Inch Nails, Pretty Hate Machine. And I did really like that. I think a part of it is like people were not used to seeing them French kiss on screen. So I was like, there's a lot of French kissing in this with the tongues.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think there is a lot of that where you're just like, oh, there's not much, or you like, oh, she's in underwear and that's just it, and underwear bra, that's it. And it's like you expected a bit more, but no, but I also like the dynamic between them. I like that I feel like, in my opinion, she needed art, but she wanted Patrick in a sense, like the difference, the fine line between love and lust that comes in. And I really like that dynamic that played into it. I wasn't a big fan of the fact that we never really see him except for that one scene interact with his daughter, like never even spoke to her. And I was like, oh, that's sad because he wants to leave this and just be sort of normal person. You're hoping, but it was really nice to see him in the bed with her with that part. So that was really sweet. But
I wish that they had, if they had done more with the two of their relationship outside of Tashi, and that, I mean, to have the one kiss, but that I kind of, I don't know, I wish that we'd gotten even more outside of the so that's why I think it works better as a competitive sports movie than it does as a relationship movie. For me.
Definitely.
Yeah.
We'd like to take a second and thank our sponsor for this episode of the podcast. It's the Hallmarkies merch store.
Are you looking for that perfect gift for the postable, Hardy, or Hallmarky in your life?
What about getting that t-shirt or hoodie that will help you stand out at your next holiday party?
Now is the time to check out the Hallmarkies merch store.
Full of festive designs by artists like Jessica Miller, Carrie from Hallmark Comics, and more.
You can even have more than just shirts, but totes, cell phone cases, notebooks, mugs, and more.
And it isn't just Hallmark. We have designs for Anna Green Gables, Man from Snowy River, The Nanny, and more.
Every purchase at the merch store goes to help support the podcast and allows us to make the great content you know and love.
There are frequent sales, so go to tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies or see the link in the description.
That's tpublic.com/stores/Hallmarkies.
All right, Molly, what's your number 2?
All right. My number 2 is probably one that not a lot of people have seen, or at least haven't really watched or sort of thing. It's The Beast. And it's the one by Bertrand Bonello. Bonello's latest film was Léa Seydoux. And it's an adaptation of a Henry James almost novella. It's a short story. And I actually read the short story because I was super excited to watch it. And it doesn't follow the exact short story because it's science fiction. It's transposed into 3 different times, and it's about this woman in the 2045, I think, who is going through this procedure that mostly everybody else has, where they actually disconnect you from previous life experiences. And she keeps finding this guy that she's been in love with this whole time, played by George McKay, and in almost every single scenario they don't get together, and that's a part of that because they can't express their feelings. They can't really express that they do love each other or don't love you. And it's mind-blowing to see how it's all interconnected and tied, and how it really got into the zeitgeist. Like there's a 2014 segment they're in, and George McKay he actually recreates Elliot Rodgers, the mass killer who killed people because he couldn't get with the girl, and he does it so well. Like he's recording in his van discussing how these women won't date a nice guy like him, and he's such a scumbag. He's so good. This is his best role, and it's just it's magnetic to watch, and you're just watching it and you're going it and through these 3 different timelines, and it's just all connected. It's just connected under this theme of emotional resonance and how we seek love and how we are too afraid. We're trapped by our own fears to let our desires out and actually express ourselves to another person. And I thought it was really remarkable. It really got to the point of Henry James' original story, even though it wasn't a adaptation of the story per se, but it really took the theme to there and just like put it in and made in the best sense adapted it in the best way it could. And which is surprising because it wasn't the only French movie that also was adapted from that novel, The Beast in the Jungle. There was another one that took place in the present day, and apparently it was not very good. But yeah, I highly recommend checking it out if you guys haven't seen it.
And I remember hearing about this, but I forgot about it when it came to Salt Lake. Looks like in April, and I missed it, so I'll have to look for it. And I'll have to look out for it.
I know that Yanis Films, I think, got to distribution, so Criterion may release it in their essentials or a real Criterion release. We'll see.
Oh, the Criterion
I kind of hope
channel.
so, because they had a good release. It was a good release for Saint Omar.
Yeah. All right. Well, my number one is a little movie called Musica that I loved so much. Yes. This is I'm kicking myself for not having seen it at South by Southwest, because that was probably been my only chance to see it in the theater. I didn't realize that it was so amazing. But it's basically this passion project by this guy, Rudy Mancuso, who I got to interview because I enjoyed the movie so much. He came on Hallmarky's podcast, which I got like totally starstruck because I just love the movie so much. And it's kind of semi-autobiographical. He has this thing called synthesia, where all of his sort of senses are sort of heightened, and he kind of hears everything, and he sees it just like everything's higher than like normal. And the way that he was able to sort of portray it is that there's like music all around him. And this is kind of like it's like La La Land, but better for me, at least.
Shots fired.
I know. But the way, he'll go into a diner, or he'll go into it, and everything kind of comes alive for him with the music and the tap 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 tap, and he starts to hear it, and even like the slap 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 of a fish at a fish market, and it creates these incredible music that he hears, and that can be like really amazing and passionate, but also can be destructive because he's distracted from like the things in his life, and so there's this woman played by Camila Mendes who they actually met on set, and now they're boyfriend girlfriend, and so like, they have like super good chemistry and whatever, and he can be an unlikable character, which I actually thought was like pretty bold of him to like be telling this story and to make his character like relatively like a complex character. I thought that was good, but I just loved everything about it. I loved the music, I loved the artistry, I loved the romantic angle. It's a little bittersweet, but I just thought it was great. So it's definitely my favorite of the year.
Oh, and he's a YouTuber. That's actually really cool.
Yeah,
I have to watch it.
He's a YouTuber, and
I saw him in Drunk History. Sorry, I was like, I've seen that face before. Drunk History.
But I think this was an incredibly bold first feature, and to do something so intimate, so personal. His mother plays his mother in the film. And it's also about his Brazilian roots and his ties to and his experience being an immigrant. And so there's that in there as well. And it's just a really good movie that speaks to themes of mental health and what you can do with your life and being understood and all of those things. But I just think it has, in the end, characters that I did care for, and I was just so visually and everything stimulated by it that I just really enjoyed it. And so it's on Amazon Prime. I highly recommend everybody check it out, and then watch the interview that I did with Rudy on Hallmarky's podcast, because that was really fun to talk to
He's
him.
also a Vine star. I remember him now.
Yes.
I remember his face.
Yeah,
I think he's the one who also just like with the showing the mom just like Hispanic mother's grocery shopping. He's like, and just like throwing the chocolate around. It's like, stop it. And I was like, yep.
Well, and it just would have been really easy to kind of make this like a fluff piece about like how great I am or whatever. But like I think at least tried to dig a little bit deeper, and like I said, they have incredible chemistry and are wonderful, and it's electric and exciting and very fun. Sorry. So I recommend it. But Mana, what about you? What's your number one?
My number one is not going to come as a surprise to anybody, and that is Dune Part 2.
Yeah.
I was very excited for it. And I do think that the additional characters of like Fade Rotha and Prince Cerula and obviously the Emperor, like Christopher Walken, Florence Pugh, Tim Butler, they added so much to this film. I think visually it's just absolutely incredible. Again, sound design, score, Hans Zimmer always puts on a clinic, and I thought he was fantastic. I just think that Timothée Chalamet is now believable as a good actor, and as a chameleon. I don't want anyone saying anything different. I think from going like from Wonka to like Dune Part 2, the man has range. And I think he really just surprised so many people. And I loved his, it was more reserved nature of Paul Atreides, and then it slowly turned, and I was just blown away by everything he did. I think Zendaya was fantastic in this as well. They all play their part beautifully, and I think that the writing and the emotional stakes were much higher in Dune Part 2, and I think people were criticizing Dune Part 1 for lacking any kind of emotional connection to these characters, and I think that Denis and the entire cast really delivered that in Part 2. Fight choreography was sick. Cinematography, dear Lord, was it stunning. You had to watch this at 70 millimeter. You had to watch it in IMAX. There's absolutely no way that you could watch it in a regular screen. I'm sorry, I gotta say it. You just feel this thing. I was blown away. I loved it so much, just in scale and the scope of like sci-fi. I think Denis Villeneuve is a master at his work. And there's little hints of everything from Arrival to Blade Runner 2049. He just it encapsulates in Dune Part 2, and I loved it.
What do you think, Molly, of this in comparison to Dune Part 1?
I think this is marginally better, but it's not something I've actually read the book, so I'm kind of yeah.
So I'm one of those people. Manda?
Yeah, I did. I did it during lockdown because I'm like, it's 1,000 pages. We're gonna power through.
And I think it's also because I was way more interested in the political intrigue of the books, which I feel the film does not really go into as much compared to, which makes sense because a lot of people, it's going to be boring. It's kind of like when you watch Phantom Menace and you're just like, trade negotiations, that's exciting. And you're just, no one wants to watch that. That's kind of boring. Or taxation things, that no one wants to talk about that. But for me, that sounds intriguing to me. Mostly because I like reading about it. I like I wish we had a bit more of the political factions with the great houses like you have in the book. I'm not a big fan of the change where it was that, the Mother Gaia is the one who actually put all this in motion, because in the story it was that Harkonnen and the Emperor were jealous of Leto Atreides' popularity, and they wanted to just get rid of him in that sense. And the Bene Gesserits knew that was going to happen because they could foresee the future. A lot of them could, but they try to bring him in together. And I kept forgetting that Liet Kynes in the first movie is not actually Chani's mother, because in the book he is the father. And so I was waiting for that. I was just like, oh wait, I forgot. They never established that, and they never established that Mother Gaia is like Jessica's mother, so they cut that out. And so it was intrigue. And I thought it was very fascinating. I thought it was funny that they added the subplot for Chani, because she doesn't really do much in the book, because she's just there to be a plot device to have Paul's children. In fact, she has a child in the book who does die, the first Leto Atreides the second, but he does die, and he's evicted by Harkonnen forces, which they kind of supplemented with Chani's best friend in this movie, which was something I preferred, and I really liked her character. But Yeah, and they actually gave her this thing. So it made me think ooh, you slept with Paul. He's definitely no Messiah in your eyes. Just like no Messiah would be that bad. Or just thinking to myself, it's like he's not the Messiah. He's a naughty boy. I was thinking of that from Life of Brian, which is like, stop it, stop worshiping him. It's like he's not the Messiah. And I like that change with that. I wonder how they're gonna fix that for Dune Messiah and how that's gonna be there, because Chani has to come back for the children to come in. And I did find it fascinating that they didn't do this time jump like in the book, because his sister is born to already by then, even though she's like 4 years old and already speaks like a full adult, because it's really creepy. And you're just like, and I thought it would be kind of funny to see Anya Taylor-Joy just be on this 4-year-old body, just be like, he is the Kwisatz Haderach, like it was in the David Lynch version. But that was a sensible change, understandable with that. And I feel they are gonna do some good stuff. And I really am excited for Dune Messiah, because that one has a bit more political intrigue with there. So I'm just like, that's exactly what I want, some more of the political stuff. And I feel Christopher Walken's part was kind of shorted, especially, and I feel he should have at least been in the first movie. And Princess Iruluna's narration, I feel like it should have been in the first movie and in the second one, because she is
which one was Christopher Walken?
He was the Emperor. Her dad.
I didn't even know that was him.
Yep.
Oh way, he didn't change his voice at all. He didn't change his voice.
I guess it's been a while.
So I think that was my issue, because I was like, it's Christopher Walken. And it's like, he's not the Emperor. It's like, oh God, guys. It's like, okay, you can just hear it. I was like, okay, you're not trying, my guy, but it's fine.
Yeah, I feel like they should have pre-planned that, where she should have been in there, and also he should have been in there in the first film, so it could be a bit more expansive. And it feels like, okay, the first film was a success even with COVID, so now we got to expand it more with all these people. You should have had it in the first movie, or at least had the narration in the first movie. I think that would have been better and not as not felt as off place with her actually doing that. That's just my opinion, but it was very good for what it was trying to do. I thought it was very good.
Yeah, I mean,
not in my top 5.
So the first one I do think was more successful in talking about leadership and the burden of leadership for Paul, and how he's trying to kind of, does he want to be the same kind of leader as his father or not? And that was, I think, more compelling than the Messiah storyline of the second one for me. So on one hand, I mean, this franchise it's not for me. This is just not who I am as a human. But the second one, I do think once it started to be sort of the war story, and there was a real, like, the machinations, are we going to go to war? What's a, like, valid reason for war? I think it got to be more compelling. I think it was more interesting.
Yeah.
I was not interested at all in Florence Pugh's character, at all in anything going on with all of that.
I think she should have been in the first movie.
Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, just like, oh wait, this
just
princess
to build
who's the child of the emperor, so that Paul could have power that way. Okay. And because in the book, it's her diary entries that preface each chapter. So she's still in the story even when she doesn't show up in person.
Yeah. But I mean, I think sometimes it's okay to say, like, this was not made for me. Like, they're not making this movie for me, and that's fine. Like,
it's
not
true.
everything is about me.
Yeah.
That book was one of the most painful experiences of my life. I hated it so much. And
it's a struggle.
So, like, this is not for me. But there's millions of people around the world that absolutely love that book and have a devoted following. Absolutely. And they deserve to have a really well-crafted movie made for them. I watched it. I'm like, this is it. You cannot make Dune better. So I can't. Like, it was really hard for me to write a review about it, because what they were trying to do, they did it. Like, this is it. I just don't like it. It's just not for me. And you know, sometimes that happens, and that's okay. And it's really, you know, it's interesting, you know, as a critic to. But I try to remember that, like, people are coming, they know that about me, they know who I am, and they want to hear my response, right? And so on one hand, I try to give something, okay, like what is it that the movie's trying to do, and is it successful? And what it's trying to do, it is successful. It absolutely is. This is Dune. If it was like a raging action fest, that wouldn't be Dune. That's not what Dune is.
It's true.
You know, and so it's on one hand like really challenging to write about, but I think it's kind of similar to like somebody that just doesn't like period pieces. It's just not for them. They just don't like it. You know, like it's just not for them. And so, you know, I on one hand, I think that it kind of humanizes you as a critic to be like, this is my bias. This is what I like. And on the other hand, like you try to be, you never want to be like completely closed off against something. And I don't think I was. Like, I think I can say like, this was a good Dune movie. It's just not for me. And it's I agree with everything you said. Super well made, very well done, well acted. Timothée Chalamet crushed it. I do think it gets a lot stronger. Like once it really becomes a war movie, like when it's just kind of with the Sand People, I was less interested.
Yeah,
with the Fremen.
Yeah. I hear you.
I feel we are just stuck in this motion where, oh, if something feels like it's universally beloved, it's just this myopic response, like everybody has to love it. And I don't agree with that opinion because I'm already seeing that backlash with people who don't like Taylor Swift. I like only a few of her songs. I dislike most of them. And that's just me. That's just my thing. And people are like, you just don't understand her. You need to understand her. Some people just don't like that. Okay. Some people just want a bit more challenging. Some people want a bit more songs that are not about her experiences because she writes mostly from her experience, and that's fine, but it's just not for you. For you. And I feel we really need to have a discussion. And also people who are confounded when others like something that are just like, how can you like Bjork or something like that? And every single month on Twitter, someone brings up that one part of Pluto. It's always Pluto, I was thinking this because my Apple Music played it on my shower music, and I was like, yeah, this is my jam right here. They're bringing, how can people like this? You're like, it's just not for you. It's okay. Not everything has to be for you.
It's true.
It's like, fine. I don't even think I'm going to watch this next one because it's just, there's no point. Like I thought that maybe the second one I might like a little bit more because it was advertised a bit more as a romance. So I thought, okay, maybe I'd like it a little bit more. But it's just not for me. So I don't even think I'll review the next one.
Yeah, I mean, that was me with the entire like Planet of the Apes franchise. Like I didn't start watching it, nor am I gonna like get into it now. It's too far. Like forget it.
I'm same. And I was obsessed with the first film with Charlton Heston as a kid.
Oh yeah.
And I watched like the first 2 sequels after that. And I was like, okay, I'm done. I don't think it can get any better from this. And then people were saying this one's really good. I'm like, oh, but now it's 3 films back, and now it's 3 films, and I'm just out of it. I'm like, no.
I'm sure it's good for you, but I'm not gonna attempt. Like,
I will get to it. I will get to it someday. But I'm just like, I'm not jumping in the theater to go see it. I'm just like, give me more Mad Max. I'm like, I love Mad Max, so I will keep up with that.
Exactly.
Yeah. That was the way it was with me with John Wick. We finally just me and Manda actually watched it for Blind Spot. But I missed it when it first came out. And then by the time I was actually a critic, there were like 3 of them or 4 of them. I'm like, I'm not going to go back. And so it was like this big franchise that I had never seen any of them.
Yeah, it's like, you're not missing much. Not going to lie.
I was actually just surprised because that was actually one of the few big franchises 2 of my grad school film professors would actually go watch. And I was like, what? Because they refused all MCU. They never watched any DC. They did not watch any of that Transformers. No. But they're like, we're going to go see John Wick opening night. That was the one thing they did. And it was just like, this is the big intellectual property film that they are obsessed with. Okay. I was like, what is it about this film that really gets them?
It started with sort of indie cred. You know,
I think it did partially,
you know, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I mean, I really do like the franchise. I think it does so well with its. I think it does its job so well, and even though I felt it got too big for its britches that time.
It's just hard when you're like behind on a franchise. Like, how do you catch up? Especially if it's something you're like, I don't know if it'll be for me.
Exactly.
But there we go. Let's see. Okay, so Molly, you haven't done your one, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay,
So
what
one,
is
the
your number one?
aforementioned, I Saw the TV Glow is my number one.
Oh,
Yes.
Nice.
yes.
I actually cried during it. It was just so emotionally investing, and it was arresting to watch and experience, especially since my friends and I, we did grow up in the early 90s, and we could see stuff like, oh, it reminds me of Goosebumps. I think of Are You Afraid of the Dark? Like when he's right near the fireplace, like, oh, this is so a pastiche of Are You Afraid of the Dark's opening. And it also connects with feeling like your reality is not yourself when you're gender nonconforming, or you feel that something is off with you and you don't feel real. You don't really feel like your reality is real itself. And I think it's really a thing with how so many people connect with media, that they start to become so obsessed, that to the point where they just see that as as reality itself, instead of what's really their reality. And I love how that tied together with the trans experience. And I really got the vibe that Owen was a trans woman, and I think the film really heavily implies that. Spoilers, but I really, as where he was dressed, and there's a Videodrome homage in it at the end that I thoroughly enjoyed. I loved how that was implemented. I thought Jane Schonenbaum, I am mispronouncing their names so bad. They did a fantastic job of really evoking and conveying those feelings that so many people, especially trans and queer kids, just really feel. And they feel that their interests are really looked down upon. The guy who was the Limp Bizkit lead singer who plays his dad in there, like, I remember the scene, it just like gutted me. It's like, can I stay up to watch the Pink Opaque? Isn't that a show for girls? And that just like hit you, because I have had that experience where it was just like, isn't that a show for boys? Isn't that show for kids or something like that? And you feel that way, that your sense of identity is almost being attacked. And especially when you're a kid, because that's your interest and your growing interest in there, and parents will cut it down if they feel that you're too old for it, or you're not the right gender for it. And it's really a terrible tragedy to see that, and having to grow up in that world where you don't feel secure in yourself, and you feel that you were just coasting through life, and you don't really have a sense of who you are. And that movie just nailed how horrific that is. And just, it's a gut punch. It's really good. And the fact that there is a chance you could have become your real self the whole time and never could. And that movie got me. I
really connected with it too, because I mean, my parents, it's not that they were like really that like morally against, because at least amongst like my little Mormon bubble, my parents were actually not that strict compared to a lot of other people that I knew. Like they would let us watch The Simpsons, for instance, every Sunday, which especially on Sunday, that was like considered kind of like, whoa. And so my parents didn't they weren't that strict compared to at least a lot of other people in our circle, but they didn't really, my parents do not care about media at all. Like I think I've rarely met anybody who is so unaffected by media. I feel like almost everybody has like that show that they love, or that band that they love, or just something, that they're really excited about. But now my parents, my mom loves to read. My dad, he does like some music, but nothing he's like a fan about, and so they just didn't understand that part of me, my passion for theater and film. And they still don't really get it. They still don't really understand, but they're supportive, and I love them for it. But I that's what I kind of connected with more than necessarily even like a judgment about it, was just that like the way that this thing became like literally part of who they were, and how they kind of processed the world. And they can even in retrospect look back and be like, that was stupid. And so I thought that was very interesting to kind of have that bit of self-awareness, I guess, worked into the plot. And I just walked out of the screening being like, I feel more understood by the world because of this movie exists.
Oh,
exactly. Yeah, I connected. I was a very gender non-conforming child for the first 8 years of my life. I dressed up in boys' clothes, and I still don't do stuff. I don't put makeup on all the time. Maybe I'll just do a little foundation, something like that. I never do lipstick. I'm just like, I don't feel comfortable with it. And my parents tried to push me into dressing more like a girl because that's just kind of the thing you had to do. And I really connected with that. I connected with that feeling of isolation of having your parents look down on you for media you love. My parents for the longest time, they were just like, why are you watching that? Or even my mom's doesn't like animation whatsoever, except for maybe a few Disney films. Otherwise, she will not watch it because she doesn't understand the appeal of that stuff. And I feel the film just really gets to that, and the feeling of having what you consider your reality just knocked down. And it just really gets to it. I think this is a movie that's going to save so many people. So many people. I know I've said that before, but I think this is one where people are going to watch this film and be like, I finally feel understood. I finally have figured out what's wrong, and I need to make the right choice here. And this movie has given me the encouragement to do that. And I just hope as many people as possible see it.
Yeah. It's a really good, and it's just like entertaining too. Like even if you don't have this sort of existential experience with it, it's just like entertaining too. It's like
Justin
a good story.
Smith is so good as Owen. He's just so really good in that role, because I've only really seen him in like Detective Pikachu. So I was shocked how good he was.
Wasn't he in like Jurassic World and or something? Yeah, he was.
I didn't watch Jurassic World, so after the first 3 Jurassic Park films, I was like, I'm done. I'm out of this.
I'm out here.
That was a smart choice.
but he's so good. He's so good. I just want to give him a hug throughout this entire film. I'm just like, and you're just like, and he could have been this beautiful trans woman the whole time, and she could have flourished, and she never got that experience, and you feel that in a sense. The film really does point to that direction. So I'm glad this film exists. I am happy this film exists.
It's really good. I can't wait till you guys see it on it.
I hope I get to watch it. I really do. You guys are selling it, and I'm excited for it now.
And the music's also really good. I love the Twin Peaks Returns homage, where they're in the bar and they hear like a little mini concert that Twin Peaks: The Return also had in a bunch of episodes. And it just and the director, they actually point out that Twin Peaks: The Return was one of the biggest influences on this movie, and I could really see it, and I loved it because I love that series.
Well, so just to go over my list, I have Mars Express at number 5. I Saw the TV Glow at 4. Molly and Max in the Future at 3. Hitman at 2. And Musica at 1. And what about you? What's your list, Manda?
I have Civil War at 5. Monkey Man at 4. Hitman at 3. Challengers at 2. And Dune Part 2 at number 1.
And Molly?
All right. Mine is number 5, Do Not Expect Too Much from the End of the World. Number 4, Love Lies Bleeding. Number 3, Furiosa. Number 2, The Beast. And number 1, I Saw the TV Glow.
Very good. I forgot to read it with the girls, but I wanted to share. I did ask on Twitter what people's favorites were, and I got a bunch of responses. So I thought I'd share those. So Geek to Me Radio says Dune Part 2, Monkey Man, Bleeding Love, and Ghostbusters Frozen Empire. Bob Marley, One Love. Laura G, she says, I've only seen 3, and it's Ferrari, The Boys in the Boat, and Ordinary Angels. Elise Chafin says Scrambled Love, Love Lies Bleeding. Elise Chafin says Scrambled, Love Lies Bleeding, Musica, Challengers, Turtles, All the Way Down. Destiny Jackson says Civil War. She says, oh no, is there nothing else? I don't know. Gonna have to sit on this one. I get that. Sumageddon Reviews says Dune Part 2, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, The Iron Claw, Anyone But You. And then Ashley Pureheart, she says Garfield the Movie, Fall Guy, Kung Fu Panda 4, Mean Girls the Musical, and If. Sam Waters says Boy Kills World, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Ordinary Angels, Dune Part 2, and The Fall Guy. Hal Kitchen says Evil Does Exist, Monkey Man, Dune 2, Furiosa, and Challengers. Deza Movie Lover says Civil War, Furiosa, Love Lies Bleeding, Perfect Days. Gavin Evans says Challengers, Lisa Frankenstein, Dune 2, Sting, and The First Omen. I Paid for That says Furiosa, Hundreds of Beavers, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes, Dune Part 2, and Love Lies Bleeding. Andrew Markowitz says Dune Part 2, Furiosa, Abigail, Challengers, Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes. And Alex says The First Omen, Abigail, Civil War, Immaculate, and Godzilla X Kong. And then It's Spoonex says Robot Dreams, Challengers, Dune Part 2, Abigail, and Fall Guy, Hell Resident, Dune Part 2, Challengers, Furiosa, Love Lies Bleeding, and Monkey Man. And BP Movie Review Hour says Dune Part 2, I Saw the TV Glow, Challengers, Civil War, and Furiosa. So there we go. That is what everybody else had to say. Very good. Hopefully we introduced y'all to some movies that might not have been on your radar. Yeah. I hope so. Yes. And hopefully some bigger releases too that we talked about along the way. It was a good retrospective of the year. I want to hear your top 5. I want to see those in the comment section or on Twitter. Let us know what your picks would be, what you've seen so far this year. I would love to hear that. And so yeah, let us know. And Manda, where can people find you?
Yeah, you guys can always follow me over at AMXND Reviews on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd. You can check out my website, candidxcinema.com, and my YouTube, Candid Cinema.
Great. And Molly?
You can find me on Twitter at Raspberry Raz. You can also find me on Letterboxd just under Margaret Raspberry. You can also find me on my own little blog Mollywood Writes at wordpress.com. And you can find some of my writing on thefilmstage.com.
Great. And you can find me at Rachel's Reviews all over social media, iTunes, YouTube, and on Rotten Tomatoes. So check that out. Also, if you are listening on iTunes, please leave your ratings and reviews. We sure appreciate it. Check out the playlist with all the female film critics panels on there. I'm already working on the next one. It's going to be super fun. So make sure to check that out. And also check out the interviews that I have with Rudy from Musica and Max from Molly and Max in the future, the directors over there on Hallmarkies podcast, because they're a lot of fun. So make sure to check that out. And if you are watching on YouTube, please give the video a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel. Appreciate that so much. And also have the Patreon group and merch store. So check that out. And you can get Female Film Critics panels, our logo shirts, which I think are really fun. So check that out.
They're so
and thanks so much to both of you. And we'll talk to y'all later. Bye.
Bye-bye.